worry that I'm going to forget to do that. All right. I did record to the cloud this time instead of. I am just going to go ahead for our presenters and for our participants. I'm going to put the order of our presenters in the chat here, except it wants to do these giant check marks. Hang on. All right. Okay. That way, that's for reference for anybody interested. So, for those who don't know me, my name's Allie Rippey. I'm the Employer Relationships Manager with Code U. So, I typically work more on the employer side of things. I really appreciate all our employers and all of our participants being here today. This event was kind of meant to focus on helping you all contextualize what you're learning. I will say, don't worry too much if you don't hear a whole lot about what you're currently learning. If, your certain pathway isn't mentioned a whole lot. This was all based on our great employer partners, not so much on a huge diversity of technical backgrounds. So if you don't hear a lot of focus on what you're learning right now, that doesn't mean anything in particular about your prospects. It's just who our great network is comprised of right now. So just wanted to give that disclaimer. I also wanted to remind everybody here, including employers, about our what may be our last industry night on March 19th at Brooksource in downtown Louisville. It's on a Thursday at 4:30, and it's just kind of a fun night of, networking for everybody in the tech community. And we'd love to see you all there. If you are using this event as your tech event for class, please make sure that you submit through OpenClass if you're in the August cohort or in Top Hat if you're in the January cohort. And this will be live once you're in your pathway. Um, I've asked each of our employers to speak for a little under 5 minutes about what they do, what their team structure looks like, the technologies they use, things like that. We should have plenty of time for one or two questions after each speaker. But if you wouldn't mind just putting those questions in the chat and including who they're for, we'll try and answer them in order, but we'll limit it to one or two questions after each person just to make sure that we get through in a timely manner, and we should be done within the hour if we stick to those constraints. Um, so if I'm not forgetting anything, I will go ahead and pass it off to our first presenter, who is Lee Lerman. Leah is a senior developer at Atria Senior Living. I'll let you take it away, Lee.
Thanks, Allie. Like she said, my name is Lee Lerman, and I'm a senior developer at Atria. I'm also a 2015 Global graduate. Big fan of the program. So Atria Senior Living is a company that manages retirement communities across the US and Canada. A lot of our locations offer assisted living options and most do memory care, but the majority are just residents who are looking for a place to enjoy their golden years, build a sense of community. Very much not a nursing home. That's always comes up. Um, so it doesn't sound like a super technical position, but we have a big IT department that handles all sorts of needs from cable to Wi-Fi to Alexa interfaces, anything to improve day-to-day living, not to mention internal or vendor support. Um, I oversee our brand websites. We have four separate brands, and they used to all be in disparate code bases, but over the last few years, we've rebuilt into a single shared repository. I like to call it Bones and Paint, where we have a single source of truth for like the structure and behavior of different pieces of the site. But then each site gets its own coat of paint to keep the brand cohesive. And there are, of course, leading pieces. Um, we mostly work in Node, specifically Vue and Nuxt, but there's a little bit of whatever there needs to be. It depends on project. My goal at work is to make sure my user's experience is the best it can possibly be. And I don't just mean the potential customers on our websites, but we have a content management team who actually builds the content of the sites and uses the tools that my team makes to do so. So I care about how to make their experience streamlined. So on a given day, I'm probably working on a ticket, but my job's also to find and anticipate larger issues or improvements we might want to make. And I also work really closely with our product owner to map out business needs, technical maintenance, anything else. My project team has two other developers and one QA analyst. So I also do my best to support their needs, to help with any questions that come up. That might be clarifying a ticket. It might be digging into the code a little bit to give someone else a hint as to what they're struggling with, or if it's something really complex, sitting down with, side by side and puzzling out or pair programming the issue. Um, we are an agile shop and we work in about 2 week sprint cycles with planning and retro and at a fairly regular cadence. Um, that's the biggest part. One thing that I am kind of proud that what we're doing is we are trying to leave room for smaller self-led projects so our developers can expand their skills and feel a little bit more ownership over what they do. One of my developers just has been working on a GUI dashboard around one of our APIs so non-technical coworkers can make better use of that developer input. So I helped him structure that, but he did all of the actual coding work. So it's a lot of it's not dissimilar to mentoring in CodeU, with a little more code writing behind it, but that's in a very messy nutshell what my job is.
Awesome. And can you tell Lee, can you tell us a little bit, especially since you're a CodeU alumni, just quickly, like kind of how you got to where you are now, like what your first couple of roles were coming out of the program?
Yeah, sure. So I this is my fourth technical role. I did a my first couple. I have done two startups, one mid-sized company, and so it was kind of the Brian and I have joked before that a tech job lasts about 2 years. And so I worked at a place for a couple of years, then another opportunity came up. Um, I'm not answering this.
You're fine.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
But no,
fine.
I just that
That's great.
I'm so sorry. You're
No, you're totally fine. Didn't mean to catch you off guard there. Okay, who do we have next? Thank you so much, Lee. We've got, I need to check my own order here. Todd, are you ready to give us your spiel?
Yeah,
Todd is currently a chief architect or was a chief architect at Oracle until January, so I was probably going to talk about that a little bit, but just made a move to a company called Enterprise DB. So I'll let you take it away.
yeah. So I am not new to technology. I am what we call in the industry a graybeard. I have been around for a long time, uh, different century, in fact, when I started writing code. And so, yeah, I've got, my perspective of the way things have shifted over the last, 20 plus years, right? And so I think one of the things I want to talk about here is kind of, the same thing Lee did, which is what is our stack on a day-to-day basis? What kind of tools am I using? What are the processes that you'll be seeing in industry? So I think I'll start out by saying, when I was at Oracle, through this acquisition of Sun Microsystems, Oracle became the copyright holder of Java. Programming language, right? So you would not be surprised to learn that there was a lot of Java in use at Oracle, including some innovation work, right? So Oracle Labs would build things like Graal VM, right, which is a new virtual machine runtime for Java, but also ran lots of other programming languages very well. Also, so Python, Ruby, Lua, R, all kinds of things could run on top of the VM. And so we got to play around with all of that. Most places I've worked have been pretty consistently using some type of agile process, whether it's Scrum, whether it's Kanban. The point is you're going to be looking at Jira. a lot, right? And dealing with tickets and dealing with workflows and presenting evidence, whether it's in a a PR and GitHub, or Bitbucket or whatever thing you use, right? They all work basically the same, right? It's like give evidence that I did the thing that I said I did, close the code, release it, close the ticket, move on. Maybe at the end of the week or the next week, we'll give a demo, show everybody how good we did, so we can sort of take a victory lap for all of our hard work, right? And so I think that's kind of on the technical side, a lot of it, and there's been a lot of different programming languages that people use. I think what I'm seeing now is kind of a move towards Rust. So I think Rust, even in more enterprise settings, is getting more traction. It's not just like a hacker hobbyist toy anymore, right? It's integrating in a lot more places. It can do that low level system stuff that Go and C have traditionally done in the past, and working in sort of the cloud native ecosystems of Kubernetes and things like that. Um, a lot of Go as well, which is very fun. And then for systems work, things that are not performance critical or can have a huge memory footprint, we'll use Python, right? Very easy to write. The AIs know how to write it really well. No reason to kind of reinvent the wheel, right? And so yeah, my development stack is basically whatever programming language is appropriate, uh, some kind of code repository like GitHub, and then a ticketing system that we're all looking at during our stand-ups and demos and sprint planning and all of that kind of thing, right? And so there's a stack kind of outside of what the core development loop looks right. And so one is I do a lot of mentoring because I am sort of more experienced, is the polite way to say it. And so that means reviewing a lot of documentation, writing a lot of documentation, things like that. And so we'll use, depending on the place that I've worked, it's Google Docs, it's Confluence, right? Because if you've got Jira, you've probably got Confluence as well, the whole Atlassian stack. And so just the idea of being able to write words cleanly and clearly. If you haven't read a book called Elements of Style by Strunk and White, which is E.B. White, who wrote Charlotte's Web, I recommend that. That really helped me hone and crisp up my written word. And yeah, so a lot of writing and a lot of inline commenting, right? The reason that Google Docs and Confluence work better than, say, Microsoft Word is the ability to, and actually, I think SharePoint has this as well, right? You can highlight sections and make comments like on specific sections of the doc instead of just commenting at the bottom. So all your questions are contextual, and you can kind of review and understand the thought process as people were getting to the point where they were asking those questions. And so, yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room, right, is I use AI all the time. I use so much Claude Code. I am happy I don't have to pay for my tokens, right? So I think that's the newest thing that I think we're still learning how to adapt with, right? So we are blocked on code reviews all the time, right? Because our SDLC, our software delivery lifecycle, which is something that if you work in a industry that is very compliance driven and regulated, where you're touching financial data in your databases, right? You have to have these processes in place, and so there are all these kind of human processes that are becoming a bottleneck more than creating the code is becoming a bottleneck. And so that's kind of what we're exploring, what my role is exploring at this company as well, is how do we roll this out everywhere, and how do we adapt the company and our compliance framework to kind of be as efficient as the LLMs are at spewing text, and how do we put the guardrails on that to make sure they spew the correct text that we want them to. Allie, you are muted if you are talking. I saw you came off video.
I am muted. Yes, and I was talking. Thank you. I said thanks, Todd, and I we don't have any particular questions in the chat, but I don't know if you just have any recommendations for people just kind of starting out from a graybeard of like any just general advice or specific technology advice or anything like that.
Yeah, let me start by answering Ashley's question here about how companies feel about AI. I think startups always adopt technologies first, right? But even AI is to the point where enterprise companies are adopting it. Talking to some of my former coworkers, um, the interview process used to screen out people that they felt were using AI, right? And that seems to no longer be the case. That even in interviews, the coding interviews, even right, I think the use of AI is no longer a deal breaker. So it is becoming a part of the industry for sure. And is AI a requirement? No, it's not a requirement. Nobody's judged on how many tokens they spend, right? Because it is an expense. So you have to do a cost benefit ratio there to Lisa's question. And I think how do you like define where it's appropriate or not depends kind of on your judgment, but also just kind of exploring and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So one of the things we're doing internally is a lot of just sort of all hands meetings or like lunch and learns where we're showing off our workflows to each other and just trying to help everybody learn. We've got a Slack channel where we're posting, Steve Yaggi's latest blog post on vibe coding or whatever the case is, right? So we're trying to build this shared consciousness of how it works and how it doesn't. And, when you're thinking about like, for example, like the Postgres, a 30-year-old database that's like bulletproof, right? Am I going to let Claude run through that code base and change the way that we do like row locking without having like a human like 100% in the loop, right? Like no way. Like that's the way we lose our entire business. And so definitely like be cautious with it, but also like have fun with it. Like I love writing code, but more than that, I like seeing my to-do list just disappear. And so I try to find those places where can throwing more text or more research and summarizing make this to-do list go away. And so I've been pretty successful with that.
Great, thank
Code
you,
reviewers becoming a
Todd.
bigger need than looks like Cooper had one more question. Sorry, are code
Oh,
reviewers
I missed it.
becoming a bigger need than coders? Like I don't know the difference between a code reviewer and a coder, but I will say so. Eric ESR was his initials. Eric Raymond is the gentleman who wrote like the jargon file, a lot of old hacker like 1990s hacker ethos type stuff, and he had a post today about you know if you learn a foreign language, you can understand a lot of it before you can speak it, right? And the same thing is kind of happening in code bases as well, where it's like, oh, I couldn't have written this Rust, but I can review it and know that it's right. So I think really the superpower here is that if you're a coder with one specialty, your specialization becomes broader when you're reviewing instead of generating some of that code.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, Todd. If you have any more questions for Todd, we'll bookmark them and come back. We'll move on here to Steve Hackett. Steve is a software engineering manager at Jack Henry, senior manager. Steve, are you ready to go?
I'm ready, Ali. Thanks for having me
Awesome.
today. Welcome, everybody. Always love speaking to Code Lou folks, Code U folks. It used to be Code Lou. And we've had great experience. I'll tell you a little bit about that as well through this. But as Ali mentioned, named Steve Hackett, work for Jack Henry. If you haven't heard of Jack Henry, we are based out of a couple different places. We have a good presence here in Louisville, Kentucky. Main headquarters is in Monette, Missouri, about an hour south of Springfield, and also in the Dallas area as well. And what Jack Henry is we're kind of the backbone for community banking in the United States. So we empower more than 7,000 American banks and credit unions whose focus is still very much that human touch with their banking customers. We provide the banks and credit unions with the tools and software to help them compete with the big giants like the Chases and the Bank of Americas that are less human touch and more automation heavy. Not that there's anything wrong with automation, but there's still a very large niche of us who like having that personal touch when it comes to our finances because it's very important to us. So we help position our banks and credit unions with that, with the software we build every day. My role in the organization, I'm in the payments division of Jack Henry, which is a very exciting place to be these days, with payments being such a central point for all of us, how we pay people, how we pay companies. It's rapidly evolving, very exciting place to be. My focus on a regular basis is enabling our software engineers to deliver secure, high quality software for moving money. So whether it be for the account holder at the bank to pay one of their bills or to send a person-to-person payment, if you've paid Venmo or PayPal, paid someone back for lunch or for goods and services, we offer a similar type of service as well. So in terms of our tech stack, um, we've got a couple cool things going on right now. We are currently migrating one of our platforms from a Jack Henry owned on-premise data center to GCP, to Google Cloud. And we haven't done that before. So we're all very excited, but a little bit nervous at the same time. But that's a big focus for the next year for us. So very excited on that one. Meanwhile, our other kind of go forward platform is called Payrails, and we acquired that company 3.5 years ago, and that particular platform lives in AWS. So we're going to be straddling between GCP and AWS. So we're going to get some good exposure to both of those cloud solutions. And that platform also, apart from it being in the cloud, one of the main focuses is really enriching it with new product features so we can keep it at the front of the market for our banks and credit unions, keep them competitive when it comes to payments. And also, there are certain features where we're doing some retooling and re-architecture. As I mentioned, we acquired Payrails a couple of years ago. It was in very much kind of a more startup mode from an architecture standpoint. So we're really getting it future ready in terms of scalability as we onboard more customers and making sure it's as stable and secure as possible. So kind of getting into that application and that platform to the next level, which is also interesting and has its own host of challenges and opportunities. In terms of technology stack, we're a C#.net shop for our back end. And then when we talk about our front end UIs, we're looking mostly at like React and Angular. And from a database standpoint, between the two platforms, we've got SQL, and then on the other one, we have MySQL. We use Grafana for having kind of a single pane of glass for how our applications are performing in production, and to be able to kind of debug extremely fast when we have an issue, just so we can minimize customer impact. So if you don't know much about observability or tools like Grafana in AWS, we're talking specifically about CloudWatch for logging, things like that. Dig in deep, because that is a major focus for us. I think it's probably a major focus for a lot of companies right now. And so dig in there. It's a fascinating space, and it really will set you apart as a technologist if you've got experience and knowledge around that. All right, AI. Of course, everybody's going to talk about AI probably here today. We use AI-driven development testing tools to catch quality issues early, help speed things up, all those benefits. We don't fear it. We're cautious about it, of course, right? We don't want any of our proprietary information going where it shouldn't. So we're very cautious, but we're very adventurous at the same time. We use it to level up our engineers. Lots of GitHub and Copilot, lots of Cursor being used in various models like Claude Sonnet and Opus 4.5. Those are the two primary ones that folks are using right now. We're now even, I think Todd mentioned the SDLC, we're even using AI, not just in the code part of the software development process, but we're shifting left a little bit now to where when the product owners are writing their user stories, they're writing them in such a way that they can easily be taken and fed into the AI tool to then generate a technical design or a tech approach document that the developer can then review, make sure everything looks good and it's all taking into context the current system and structure. And then once that's good, then the tech design gets fed right back into AI for an agent to go off and code. And then when that's done, engineer goes back and does a peer review. And hopefully by the end of that, you've saved a lot of time and it's covered a lot of edge cases that maybe you haven't thought of, things like that. So the quality is higher and everything. So it's all fun, all very exciting, and it's just better ways for us to deliver to the customer. Now, at the end of the day, engineers and teams are still, they own their quality. So blaming AI for a bug or some type of quality issue, that's very much frowned upon. So you got to check your work, right? but we're emphasizing the need to give the tools that they're using the context of the applications that are being used. All right, shifting gears real quick. Success stories for Code U. So I'm here today speaking just because Code U alumni have had a proven track record for us at Jack Henry. Our Code U grads, they really show they're very quick at learning their
Hey,
applications when
Les.
they get. They're very quickly at learning their
Oh,
underlying technologies that they work with. And funny enough, they a lot of time they come in here and they end up teaching their more senior counterparts things that they don't know, which is fascinating and awesome at the same time. So we even recently had a Code U grad get promoted to a leadership role after just a couple of years of joining us. So there's literally no limitations for growth for Code U grads, at least not here at Jack Henry. So, and then finally closing up, I think it was Todd mentioned some things about how the teams work together. We're called what's a scaled agile or safe agile software development group. We go through extensive planning each quarter, so every 3 months, ensure our priorities are nice and clear for all the teams. They're ready to meet their next set of objectives with a high level of confidence so we can consistently deliver software to customers based on our commitments to them. Teams do pair and mob program every day, so it's a very social but fully virtual workplace, and we're highly regulated as well. So we have to be secure and compliant. So not a lot of vibe coding going on here for things that we go to production. And then finally, if you want to work for a company that values high innovation and keeping the customer at the center of everything you do, be sure to look at the open positions at Jack Henry, and I will drop a link into the chat here. And this is where you can look for any technical positions at the company, not necessarily in my department per se, but across the whole company. So if you got any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Um, we are going to keep moving here. Please feel free to put any questions that come up for Steve in the chat. Up next, we've got Joey Mudd from Virtual Peaker. He is the head of engineering, and Virtual Peaker, similar to Jack Henry, has done internships with us in the past and has been a great partner for a long time. So, Joey, you ready to take it away?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. I'm Joey Mudd. Ali covered the intro. So I think let me start by telling you a little bit about Virtual Peaker because it may be a company that you haven't heard much of unless you've interacted with us through Code U at some point. So Virtual Peaker is in the energy industry. We have a software platform to manage distributed energy resources to allow utilities to control them like a virtual power plant. And so, what are distributed energy resources? It sounds complicated. It's a little bit simpler than that. It is just devices that are sort of scattered throughout a utility's territory that either use or store significant amounts of energy. So, at the small end of things, that might be a smart thermostat that many people have in their homes, and that utilities like LG&E run programs interacting with those. And then it sort of covers in the middle ground EVs and EV chargers, which are becoming increasingly common, but they use a ton of energy when they're charging. And then it sort of scales all the way up to battery systems, which could be small and attached to a person's solar panels on their garage, or it could be a large battery that maybe the utility bought and has at some facility to support that. But if they're internet connected, then they can be enrolled in programs that we manage to allow them to be aggregated into something that is akin to a power plant, except that doesn't burn, consumable energy fuel. So what does the software look like on that side? It covers everything from enrolling the devices. So if you're a homeowner and you have a smart thermostat or an EV charger, the utility might offer incentives for you to enroll, and you're not giving full control over to the utility at all times, but you sort of opt into certain conditions that say in exchange for an incentive, the utility can make adjustments to that device as the need on the grid arises. So enrolling the devices is part of our platform. Uh, in certain cases, paying the incentives via maybe virtual gift cards or something like that is part of our platform. And then the actual management of the devices and running of what are typically called in the industry events. So the idea there would be if the utility projects a peak in electrical demand, they can use their virtual power plant assets to cover the added demand for that peak without having to actually fire up, say, a natural gas plant that especially the ones that's where actually the name virtual peaker comes from. It's the plants that cover those peaks in demand tend to be expensive to run and sort of the least environmentally friendly. And furthermore, as things like solar arrays come on, managing those is actually an added challenge for utilities because they don't control when the energy generation might happen. So our software both monitors and lets utilities take actions to manage the more complex grid that we're seeing now. So we're a startup. So when I joined in 2018, I was the third employee. We're now up to about 50. We've got in the ballpark of 20 people in our engineering department, which I lead. And so it's a big component of the company, but not the entirety. But our primary uh, product is a software product. So, the software engineers are really a core of building the product itself, not just sort of in support type roles. Um, our tech stack is our programming languages are mostly JavaScript. So on the front end, we use Vue.js. On the back end, we use Node. It's hosted out of various AWS components. The engineers are very heavily operating in the JavaScript world, so the Node and Vue applications. There's they typically have a good understanding of the AWS components we use, but the management of those is pretty rarely requires the engineers to get too deeply involved. And then we have MySQL databases behind those, which are pretty critical and get interacted with directly by the engineers to a significant degree. All of our operations are sort of coordinated out of GitHub on the engineering side. So, um, the projects we work are framed as issues in GitHub. Code is produced and discussed and reviewed out of pull requests. So the flows that I think you learn in CodeU, um, the sort of Git tooling is super useful. It's critical to what we do. The issue and pull request flows I think are less often used because you all are often working on independent projects. But the familiarity with GitHub overall is going to be super helpful in I think uh, any software related job that you come across. But ours remains pretty GitHub tied, and yeah, our team structure is a team of maybe 3 to 5 software engineers working with a team lead who's also a software engineer. And then we have a separate QA group within our department with a similar structure. And then though each team interacts very closely with a product manager who sort of decides priorities and helps scope out issues, writes user stories, as one of the previous speakers talked about, which is basically a way of framing requirements for the software. So we have pretty close ties with our product organization, even though we are an independent department. And then yeah, we've really based our building of the team around programs like CodeU. We started up an internship program, which has been the source of most of our engineering hires. We have tended to prefer working with graduates like y'all versus going out to sort of the open market. We've had a lot of success with the rapid ability to learn on the job from graduates like yourselves. And as similar to what one of the previous speakers alluded to, we've had, I think of our 5 engineering team leads, 3 of them are CodeU graduates from various years in the past. So It's definitely been a great starting point, but has also had opportunities for people to grow into more advanced roles within the company. Um, so yeah, I'll leave it there. I think I'm probably over time.
It's great.
I
No.
think the discussions around AI are pretty similar to what we're seeing. And the one thing I'll add from my perspective is, um, you know, in your minds as you think about how your career is going to grow in this world with AI, just keep in mind that for decades it's been the case that uh, it's pretty rare that people have a job that is specifically coder. Most software engineers, coding is actually a fraction of, maybe not a tiny fraction, but it is a fraction of the time spent in their engineering practice. And so you think of using AI as a tool to help with that coding component, but know that that is not the entirety of the job. Getting uh, design plans, communicating priorities, pointing out challenges, uh, testing effectively, all these things feed into it. And so, it's definitely a new world with what AI is capable of on the coding and testing and all these fronts. But the job has a lot of sort of putting all the pieces together and working with others, whether they be, AI agents or whether they be people throughout your company. And that coordination is actually a big part of the engineering work. Yeah, thanks, Ali.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. Yeah, again, if you have any questions for Joey, throw those in the chat. We'll make sure we get those answered. Up next, we've got Ophir Klein, who's lead data engineer and architect at Atrium. Ophir, are you ready?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Ophir, O like the letter, fear like the emotion. So I work at Atrium. It's a consultancy company, right? So we typically call it, right, the service industry. So it's SI firm. We have about like 200 to 500 folks, and I work with folks across in Latin America, India, a few other places. So some of my teams are a little bit dynamic. Basically, really just an architect, and been in consulting for a couple of years. And it's no, if you ever want a job that never looks the same, this is the job for you. Every client comes with something different. So I've worked with folks from banking, automotives, cybersecurity, networking, healthcare, kind of you name it. I've probably been in some code base that someone else wrote. Um, a lot of what the kind of work looks like is it depends, and it depends on two things. Are we dealing with like transactional work, so you're dealing with operations, or are you dealing with analytical work? I've also been a Code U instructor for quite a while, teaching the data stream. So some of you may have been in some of the modules with me. And a lot of kind of tech stack and stuff we deal with are around every version of SQL you can imagine, right? From everything from MySQL, Postgres, Oracle. I typically specialize nowadays in Snowflake, which is a cloud database. I've done Databricks, some GCP, which is the Google stuff. Typically, those intersect with like Amazon S3 buckets, Azure, all that kind of fun stuff. So I've, for better or for worse, been around. A lot of kind of what the team structure is. So I lead the teams, and it kind of depends. I started out in software, did full stack development, eventually moved into data engineering, then got into data architecture, and this is probably where I'm going to stay for a while. The kind of course has been the growing of concerns, and you can see that typically in the team structure, right? So when I was doing programming and analytics and all that, a lot of my focus was on the technical side, right? Like how to get it faster, how to solve complex problems, all that kind of stuff. But then as you start moving up and around, you start to see that you handle more of the people side. And then you typically realize that most of the job is really just the people side. Even in programming, yeah, people debate about different philosophies, but it's all just people problems, right? At the end of the day, we'll solve the problem. Technical problems are about 10% of what I think I do, and 90% is really about the people, the problems, and the puzzles. And what the typical team structure is varies on the engagement. So I've been on a huge enterprise project where there were 30 people, and I headed like 7 architects. all the way down to I have a team of 5 where I architect, there's a data lead, they work with the data engineers and the analytics, and then I kind of map out everything that needs to go, and are a lot more client facing nowadays. But some things we use is so we use GitHub, right? If I can promote it, we use GitHub projects. I have arguments as to why that's good for this more agentic era and metadata era, but I try to avoid Jira where I can, but that's not always possible, and that's okay. Probably dealt with Bitbucket, a whole bunch of other ones, GitLab, Azure DevOps. We use DBT or Coalesce for the SQL layer nowadays. Those are 2 big ones. DBT is a local Python library. It's great. It kind of separates out the logic from what you typically need to do in the analytics realm inside of a SQL database. So I highly recommend that if you're interested in this space. It's quite hot and it's quite good, and plenty of transferable skills. We focused a lot on infrastructure. So we do a lot of CI/CD, which are the pipelines. They're just YAML files. So they're just specifications that like GitHub Actions runs, and then it'll target or do some kind of automation. We do a lot of orchestration. So Dagster, Dagster Plus, Apache Airflow, those are all open source except for the Dagster Plus that you can also use and learn. Right. And orchestration is just how do I kick off different processes at the right time and in a sequence. Python. I've been in Python, SQL, some Rust, some Clojure, weirdly enough, C#. You kind of just see it all depending on the tech stacks. And so how do I kind of run teams and think about engagement with clients and also help folks level up, and also like if they're more junior, right? I don't, some of the project I've done, I've built agentic structures and architectures, so I'm very familiar with how those need to be. And juniors who come on, or or at the start or in the middle of their career may not be totally familiar. I don't really care. I care that you want to learn and that you want to pick things up fast. That's kind of my bare minimum requirement. And at different stages in your career, there's different expectations, but the junior is really just like, can you learn? Are you interested in learning? And then can you ask questions? And some of those questions might just be, hey, I don't know really how this works. That's totally fine. But sometimes I think what differentiates folks that you can see where their career is going is where they're asking that question that follows after. They're not just stopping at your answer. They're asking, hey, but now because we made this decision, this is starting to, isn't this going to start popping up? Right? That's the next level of what shows you that you're ready to catapult your career. So again, the tech stack is great. Knowing all that stuff is fantastic. Getting the work done is important, but I'm typically looking for folks that I can just help teach and that you'll learn it on the job, right? I don't need you to come in being the master of everything. I just want you to be curious and ask questions. That's kind of my bare minimum requirement, and that's all I care for. And then I can show you all the stuff. I can give you all the experience of all the horrible things I've seen over the amount of time I've spent working. And so a typical day is reviewing, meeting with clients, talking about future work, making tickets, making sure that we have a unified way of understanding how to read them, how to write them, how to comment, how the reviews work. So I like sit with the juniors and we'll go through a few cycles of it, and then they typically pick it up and it's super easy. I'd say again, like stay curious, just read, be familiar, right? Like at this point in your career, if you're just trying to get going, is just be excited and just talk to people about things you're excited about. People are excited to hear that you're excited, and knowing how to kind of connect it to what their interests are, right? It's a communication problem. How do I take my interests and match it to what you're looking for from more of a business realm is key. But just kind of key, don't get lost don't lose the forest for the trees, but also keep the big picture in mind. And just be forward thinking and excited. People want to work, the job really is, I want to work with people that are nice and are fun to work with. I don't care if you are not as good as the guru master over here. I just want to work well with you. We can figure out the rest later. And that's what companies want. They just want to be able to invest in and grow with you and allow you to grow and kind of add. So yeah, that's kind of what consulting is like. And then there's a whole other aspect we don't need to get into, but just stay curious. It's really the only thing I can say.
Awesome. Thanks, Ophir. I think we're still doing all right on time. We have it slated to go until 2:15 today, so we're going to go ahead and move on to Mark Hamner, who is our Senior Engineering Manager of Corporate Solutions over at Papa John's. You may have met Mark at some of our events in the past. He's usually at industry night, or if we do another in-person event, he's usually shows up. So, Mark, are you ready to take it away?
Yep, thanks, Allie. Thanks for letting me talk to you guys for just a minute today. Mine should be fairly brief so we can stay on time. I'm Mark. Any questions? No kidding. Hey, I'm Mark Hamner, an engineering manager at Papa John's International. I think that one thing that you see that's really interesting from a lot of the employers here is how technology is everywhere. I think that so often when you're in school or you're doing things like CodeU, you think technology is Meta or Google or Amazon or someplace like that. But really, if you drive down the road, pretty much anybody that has a shingle out is going to have some sort of tech presence. And that includes pizza. You would be amazed at how much technology goes into delivering awesome pizza. A little bit about me. I'm a lifelong nerd. I have been coding since I was 8 years old, which was a long time ago. I started on a TRS-80 computer from Radio Shack that my uncle bought me. Many of you don't know what Radio Shack is because they have been gone since you were born. But maybe they were the place your grandparents bought transistors. But back a million years ago, they sold computers. So that's where I got my start coding in BASIC, hooked it up to an old CRT TV and just started going. Used to have to code out of books because that shows you how old I am. So I've been coding professionally since the 1900s. At work, I have the privilege of managing three small teams. One of those teams is a team that develops our back office applications. These aren't the apps that you order pizza with, but they're the apps that the restaurants will use to do things like, for example, see how your sales today compared to your sales on the same day last year, so you can see if you need to adjust some things. Um, for those apps, they are primarily Java applications and Spring Boot, typically with Oracle databases as their back end, and we have a mix of things like Angular for front end on some of them. Um, Another team that I have the privilege of managing is our HR technology team. This is a team of people who do development primarily in Workday, which is our HR system, and they have their own special little way you do development there, and also some PeopleSoft development for some legacy stuff we have there using a proprietary coding language called PeopleCode. See what they did there. And finally, I lead a small team that does websites coded in Drupal that typically front end UIs that maybe aren't so nice looking. I also lead our student programs, so internships, apprenticeships, and co-ops, and that includes our Bit 502 apprenticeship program, which some of you all may have heard of or maybe even chatted with me about. Um, and finally, and I'm happy this is exciting, standing up a small AI capability team under my responsibility. And we're going to be doing things like working with new agentic AI agents that we're standing up, dealing with things like Google's Vertex AI. We're actually rolling out a search powered by that for our new corporate intranet that we're rolling out at the end of March. So that's really cool. Yeah, just really exciting. As far as apps in general at technology stack, excuse me, in general at Papa John's, typically we've got a lot of Java. We have a lot of older Oracle databases. We're trying to kind of get away from those. We work with Google's BigQuery. That's our sort of enterprise data warehouse. Our eDNA team works with that to do a lot of visualizations in a piece of software called Tableau. We also have some apps in Swift. We have some React going on, and we're actually in the process of modernizing, moving a lot of our old stuff that was, Angular or whatever to a front-end technology called Flutter, and we're actually going to have microservices in Java on the back end. So, um, one thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking about AI, is just to kind of echo what some other folks have said here. We're doing a lot of AI here at Papa John's now, really getting into it, not just rolling out agents to let you do things like voice ordering and cool stuff like that we've demoed at some of the Google conferences, but just in day-to-day stuff, right? We have Gemini Code Assist, which we can use to help us write good code. We have Claude Code, We've played around with cursor some. So it really is making us more efficient. We've been able to see some really great gains there. For example, we did a POC in Cursor that showed that we could convert something from like an a olden times version of Java, like Java 8 or something, all the way to the newest version of Java that used to take about 2 or 3 weeks. We could do it in a day now. So we're really seeing some efficiency gains there, setting up some great visualization apps and things like that. But the thing I do want to mention as far as AI goes is that, again, like others have said, if you write or if you put the code out there, if you push the code, you're responsible for the code. That thing catches on fire and falls over at 3 a.m. I don't want to hear, well, Claude told me to do it. Well, unless Claude's going to be trucking in to help you fix it, you still need to know how to code, and I firmly believe that. So yeah, that is all I wanted to say today. But I'd be happy to try to answer any questions or just hand the mic over to the next person.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I
Thank
know
y'all.
Gina said, did you used to deliver pizzas by any chance? I don't know if you ever delivered pizzas, Mark, but I know before he was at Papa John's, he was at Waystar and was still a
Yeah,
great
no,
man too.
you don't want me anywhere near your food. I am very bad at all things culinary. I will tell you that one thing that they do at Papa John's, which is cool, is we do have the opportunity to work in a restaurant for half a day. And I did my half a day at the Middletown Papa John's. Even got to make my very own pizza. Um, they did tell me that they would probably throw that pizza away in real life, but I did take it back to work, and my director and my VP both ate it. And the next day, the VP was out, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I killed Michael." But thankfully, he was out for another reason, and I did take it home, and my family ate it. So while it was a terribly ugly pizza, it did taste delicious. So yeah, awesome.
Good, good. Um,
I look like a guy that worked at the store I'm thinking about. Maybe I am that guy. You never know. Maybe that's
another
Matt,
laugh.
my
Thank
alter
you.
ego.
No, I used to stay with my aunt a lot in Louisville, and as where you look like him. I mean, I was probably like 10, so this has been a long time ago. But you look like him.
Well,
Got a doppelganger somewhere there, Mark.
maybe another life, or who knows.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Christina Ferris. She's a solution architect at P3 Adaptive. Christina, you ready to take it away?
Yeah, yeah. So, like Ali mentioned, I am a solution architect over at P3 Adaptive. So we are a data and analytics consultancy, very similar to Atrium actually. So I was listening to a lot of what he said, and that really applies to a lot of what my day-to-day looks like as an architect. We are headed in a direction that I'm really excited about. We're calling it AI empowered, and I think that's what everyone keeps talking about today. There's kind of a difference between an AI service, right? Like something that makes code for you without any human interaction. And then there's the other side of it, which is, okay, I use AI as my rubber duck. I put in there what I'm thinking of doing and I ask it, what am I missing? Or, hey, I am looking to architect a solution around X, Y, and Z. These are the parameters. What do you see as flaws based on my current architecture? Stuff like that has been awesome to use AI for, especially in consulting, where a lot of times you're the only person in the room from your company. Atrium is slightly larger than us. We are only 60 to 70 people, and we don't have any project managers. So a lot of my day-to-day is talking to clients, figuring out what we actually need. I think I literally spent 6 hours yesterday talking to somebody about the fact that they wanted a column that didn't exist. So I needed them to figure out for me what the logic was supposed to be. So it ended up being 2 seconds of coding once we figured out what the logic needed to be. But it takes that amount of time to work through what the business process is and understand what makes sense for the code to be. So just again, encouraging you all, don't run away from the field just because it's scary and all the stocks are plummeting. It's resilient. And if it's not, we are as humans, right? We can adapt. So don't forget that. As far as the tech languages that we use at P3, we are a Microsoft Stack company. So we prioritize things like Power BI, Azure, Microsoft Fabric is kind of the latest and greatest. And we have a great time with it. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, so I speak at a lot of conferences around data. If you're ever interested in attending any of those, let me know. We do also have a local user group in Lexington, and we'd love to see you there. I think a few people maybe on this call have been there, so pretty exciting to see some of you guys in a different context. But come on by, we always have free pizza. So um, let's see what else. Oh, team structure. So P3 Adaptive, I've worked at a couple of other consultancies. If I had to recommend something to past me 5 years ago, just starting out in a tech career, past me was working at a very large logistics company. And I think it was perfect because I had seniors on my team, I had people to learn from, I had mistakes that I could make safely, right? So you have to fail, you might as well fail fast, and you might as well fail safely. So if you're going to go somewhere, try and find somewhere to find mentors that can help you with that. Don't be the only person in the room who knows how to do the thing in the first 2 years of an industry. Just don't. You're gonna be miserable, and you're always gonna feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, which you're going to feel anyway. So you might as well not be alone. With that, I went from a big logistics company to a big consultancy, and it was perfect for the same reasons. But big companies, big consultancies, they have their slew of issues, and so do small places. I just decided that recently I wanted to move to somewhere with small place problems. I think of it like if you're buying a house, right? If you're buying a house, you can buy a 100-year-old house, might be cheaper, but it has old house problems. If you buy a new house, it's going to be more expensive, and you're still going to have problems, but there'll be new house problems. So you just kind of have to decide which problems you want to deal with from the offset. So always down to chat through those. I think everyone on this call would be down to chat through their experience at various size companies and help you figure out maybe where you want to land to start. People have talked a lot about, we are a team of X, Y, and Z. The key again is to find your people. Don't be afraid to leave. Company loyalty is not what it used to be. I've heard stories about people who got pensions, stories of people who got sabbaticals. Like my dad at one point had a company he worked for that at the 10-year mark, they paid out 3 months of paid vacation. That doesn't happen anymore. So look for a place that you either believe really in the mission, you believe in the paycheck, or you believe in the people. Ideally, all three, but when in doubt, at least have one would be my advice. Don't be somewhere where you're miserable and making no money. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, tech languages. I forgot to say SQL is huge. If I can recommend learning one language just in case you need to be in the data world, SQL is it. Pretty much anything else you can pick up once you understand how SQL works. Python is also huge, but AI is really good at Python. It's also really good at SQL. The trick will be, as humans, understanding that when AI gives me code, is this going to run fast? Or am I setting myself up to pay a lot of money down the road? I've seen PySpark notebooks get written that then I come back and say, why didn't you multi-thread this? It would have run so much faster, saved you about 1/10 of the cost, and just nobody thought about it, right? So when in doubt, try and think through, if you're using AI, not only how does it work, but once it's working, can I make it run faster? Can I make it run cheaper? Money is always going to get you a job somewhere. So if you can save somebody some money, you'll get a job.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. There is one question in the chat for you, but we'll put that aside and make sure that Doug and Taehoon get to finish by 2:15, and we can circle back for it. But I know you maybe had a hard stop as well, Christina, so I can
It
send it to you
moved,
via
so we're
email.
safe.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, regardless, next up we've got Doug Lane. Doug Lane is a vice president over at El Toro. Doug, are you ready?
I am ready. Yep.
Thanks for
Thank you. El Toro is a marketing services firm that is able to create curated audiences for its clients. But at El Toro, we do more than just digital marketing. We own the data infrastructure behind it, and that includes petabytes of data. We are a technology company that specializes in high precision IP targeting, and we hold over 25 patents that allow us to map the physical world to the digital one with better than, I think, 95% accuracy. And we do it all without cookies or probabilistic guesswork. We provide our clients with data solutions that are like super precise, transparent, and ethically grounded, which is important, very important to us. Um, our culture is anchored in like our five values, which are excellence, persistence, integrity, innovation, and continuous improvement. And as VP, I make sure these aren't just like on a TV screen or a wall somewhere, but make sure they also show up in our code and our infrastructure and in our service. Uh, so as a VP of technology, my mission is to like transform our data sets or our data assets into a scalable platform. And that means I oversee the engineering cycle for our portals that our internal as well as external customers use, and then also oversee the underlying services that power them. The teams that report up through me, there's two application teams, one with on the front end and one on the back end. And then I also have an IT operations team and a cloud engineering team as well. I manage I guess the how and the when of our technical evolution. So uh, that means I have to balance like the needs that are coming from our sales and marketing teams. Also with like the long-term integrity and security of our architectural foundation. So for example, think like technical debt, making sure that remains manageable. My team or my department is comprised of high performing agile teams. That's we do scrums on a daily basis. I work to make sure that they all understand our objectives, and I try to mentor the next generation of tech leaders because I know someday I will, like someone else was mentioning, I will move on and someone will need to move in to my place, just like before me, there was another person and they moved on and I moved into their role. So, I work to like ensure that our talent matches the company's ambitions. About our tech stack, it's kind of a mix of or a modern mix of technologies. For like the user-facing portions, we used TypeScript and React for those. And then for like the backends and for like our data management platform, we use Go and Python in there. We use GitHub for storing the code and Argo to help us do the deployment of that code. But underneath all of it is Kubernetes, which helps us orchestrate all these various workloads across a dynamic infrastructure. And that infrastructure is primarily AWS, but we do use other public cloud providers, but AWS is where we have the bulk of our workloads. Like on the database side, my teams primarily use Postgres. There's also MongoDB in there. And then for like our data services side, it's primarily Trino would be probably our largest installation for data services. And then speaking of AI, we're currently like adapting AI to remove like friction in our development process and just trying to enhance our delivery outcomes. But it is a real challenge to make sure that people's productivity is protected. And we just have to be careful and plan well how we evaluate our different approaches. And a day in my life is usually just going through the scrums with my various teams, finding out what they're working on, what they're planning to work on, and if they're blocked in any in any way. And then with my colleagues, I'm focused on cross-functional collaboration and also making sure that my teams are aligned with what other teams need from mine. And then kind of, in between all of that, there's time to conduct meetings with individuals and just have a chance to understand any concerns that they might have or answer any questions they have. I will say, like, probably the biggest part of my day is just focusing on communication and defining problems and then building trust among others. And I would encourage people to remember those. I would call them technical skills. They're not the technology skills that you're going to code you for, but these are the technical skills that will help you build a sustainable career. And to be honest, they're often overlooked by people. So it is a way to set yourself apart from others. And then lastly, I would say about El Toro, we are a startup. But we've been around for more than 10 years, so we kind of have the maturity of an older company. And we are always interested in having engineers to be a part of El Toro that they want the persistence to solve hard problems, but also have the innovation to build things that haven't been done before. And before I forget, I just want to say thanks to all the students who attended, and also thanks to all the presenters. I've really enjoyed hearing from everyone about the various companies and what people are doing. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Yeah, El Toro's been partnered like a couple of these other companies with CodeU on and off for a while. So in terms of hiring, so appreciate you coming out. And then last but definitely not least, we've got Taehoon from Heaven Hill. Taehoon, are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, I'm
He's
ready
an
to take it
AI
away.
solutions engineer with Heaven Hill. So, and he's
Yeah,
got a little mini guest with him today as well.
yeah, this is Emma, if you can see her. Um, got her on me. This is definitely just my speaking notes here. I just wanted to have a little bit of something to share with you. Yeah, I work at Heaven Hill. It's the largest family-owned U.S. distillery, 9 years strong. Third generation owner now. All been in Shapiro family this whole time. Started in Bardstown. Right now we have our headquarters in Louisville. Some notable friends you've probably had or have heard of: Elijah Craig, Evan Williams, Henry McKenna. If you like tequila, Luna Azul Tequila Ocho is there. You can see the full list at heavenhill.com. For us, AI is huge. AI is kind of all I'm about. I've been fortunate to be in this position, coming from more of a data engineer, analytics engineer background into AI engineer. We have initiated our Thrive with AI program early last year to embed AI across the whole company. And I'll talk a little more about that later. Our tech stack and tools we use Git for version control. We're Azure shop, so we have any of the microservices you can think of, Docker, Kubernetes in that. Bicep is a kind of like Terraform for Azure. We use that. We mainly use this right now to host MCP servers, and I'll talk more about that later. And because we've been around for so long, there's a lot of on-prem resources as well that we use. We have Fabric. We use that for lakehouse warehousing, analytic source of truth that feeds into our Power BI, Shiny apps. We also have on-prem OT. I'm kind of learning that here, operation technology, because of a lot of manufacturing part. Those are very, intricate, and also we don't want any, anything there to be exposed because they do control motors and things like that that could hurt people. So we have all that in on-prem servers, and it runs very securely. Yeah, so a lot of data from that lives on-prem. So I also kind of try to manage that. Power BI, R Shiny, and also ChatGPT. We use that for reporting and ad hoc analysis. So that's kind of been kind of our Direction is some of my influence. Is kind of democratizing the access to data through chat, through LLMs. We have ChatGPT Enterprise access for all our employees. I'm going to talk a little more about that, but they've been using a lot, this a lot, and we're tracking time saved, cost saving, and all these things through all this, and I'll talk more about that. Python and SQL, R, and Spark is kind of code languages they use. We don't really have kind of like a front end, back end, like full stack team because we really don't need a lot of that really. We don't distribute ourselves. We sell our products in our manufacturing like experiencing plants, but really there's not much technology that goes into selling because it's all, a lot of it is through distributors. We use Asana and Teams for our workflows. AI specific tooling, we use Codex, GPT, MCP. I'm trying to implement more of we're expanding that capabilities with VectorDB, RAG, and things like that. Big proponent for me, I use Cursor, but trying to bring that into our development workflow, Claude as well. So what I do is an AI solutions engineer. I build and maintain internal MCP servers for the reliability and to really make sure that they are telling the right things. User enablement, I'm on calls a lot with internal business users to train them on how to use MCPs, how to use AI, talking a lot with executives to talk about directions of our company with AI use, workflows, custom GPTs, things like that. Just FYI, just me and my manager, who's just kind of like, we're AI team, and we serve the whole company of 900 or so of employees, and then much more with union workers and our contractors. Research and development, I prototype, evaluate models and tools, productionize some of the patterns or tooling, workflow usage, operation hygiene. I try to write run books for different departments, take care of tickets tickets of people asking me how to use this or how do I do this, following up with those. Data readiness, because I come from data background, kind of like naturally kind of fit into this role where I'm also procuring it and building out data warehouses for AI products. So really, Thrive with AI, Heaven Hill right now it's 690 employees enabled through enterprise OpenAI license that we have. And this enables all the teams, not just IT, all the teams in all departments to build custom GPTs and use MCPs to access trusted and tools data. This really democratizes access to data. OpenAI's company knowledge, is a feature they have, gives employees access to connect ChatGPT to like SharePoint, to Teams conversations, to GitHub, to Asana, and basically all our workflows, and ask questions. And this also enables them to say, hey, from this meeting log, create Asana tasks for each of the people who are part of this. Some of the ways that we use custom GPTs is I recently finished this project where I stood up an MCP server that pointed at our data in Azure in Fabric that had all the data that's needed for our salespeople. It has all the what we call depletion, really like how much accounts have bought all our products, at how much, how many, all the data that we have, and we present it to our sales department, which about 200-300 people across the organization, and they can use it to ask ask questions like, hey, like I'm going to Louisville, give me like top 10 places I need to hit that could generate the most amount of net sales value. Or they can ask questions like, hey, like there's some decline in the incentive structures we have, like how can I structure our incentives better so that our distributors are more incentivized to sell our stuff. So this really like enables our employees to not just ask data about data, but make good decisions based on data. Our roadmap currently in fiscal year 26, which ends at May, we are our goal is to have agent within each team of the company, each departments of the company. Fiscal year 27, we will have agent working with each employees, and by end of 28, we want to have agents per employee. Basically, each employee being manager of multiple agents. So yeah, we're on our roadmap and agentic workflow enablement for across all departments, and we really value that knowledge and ability to use chat, use AI, and that's part of kind of recruiting decision throughout the whole company. Even if you're an accountant or if you're marketing, like we ask and want you to be able and available and prepared to use AI. So yeah, really that's kind of it from me. You can reach me at LinkedIn and my email right there. Yeah, any questions, or I can see if you
There was one in the chat. Someone said, is AI adoption mandatory at the company? Like, are employees evaluated on how much they use ChatGPT, for example? And if so, how do you handle reluctance or pushback about it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's not a KPI or metrics that we do. We track as in like it doesn't go into performance evaluations, but that is something that is in the works to track them. Not to say, hey, you need to use more, but to really see like, hey, are we saving them time? To compare like, hey, this person is a rock star in their department. Like, how much AI do they use? We're gonna start comparing and using this stats to say, hey, like this sales team in this district is killing it, and we're gonna start mapping that to, hey, how much are they using AI? Like, it'll be cool to see teams who are killing it are using more AI. We're already using it to have kind of our master document to say, hey, this is how much time we've saved. Our goal for this fiscal year to save at least 13,000 hours of employee time saved using AI, and we're well on our way towards that goal. So that's been really cool to see, to really put that dollar value. Hey, like if we're assuming average employee gets paid this much, and we're saving this much time per employee, this is no brainer.
I will put, someone asked about internships at Heaven Hill. I can put the careers page in the chat. I'm connected with somebody in talent on LinkedIn that's at Heaven Hill. I think her name's Kimberly McLaren.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so I will put just like a link to the careers page in the chat for everybody. But yeah, I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we had a cap at 2:15, so I'm going to go ahead and end for today. And to answer your question, Jaron, yes, it will be recorded, so we'll post it in announcements. If anybody here thinks of questions that they'd like to follow up and ask any of our contacts that presented today, please feel free to email me. I'm Allie at codeu.org, putting that in the chat. And I'll pass those along and hopefully get any other questions answered for you guys. Thank you again to all of our presenters, and including those who had to hop off, and to everybody who came today, and we'll get this posted for you all to review. Thanks.
Thanks, y'all.